Read a few of my newer poems. Combination I'm putting together. I'm a teacher too, and I keep finding a lot of the things that I read are either colored by my family or by school experiences. Some of those may come across. There's another in a mother's voice. That keeps happening. This one is called "Don't Forget Who You Are." Did your parents ever tell you that? Adelina, don't forget who you are. All right, Adelina. You may go off and leave your poor old mama and daddy behind, but there are some things you'd better not forget. Don't go wearing white shoes after Labor Day or seersucker before Easter. Be sure to take those little sandwiches and the meat and the cheese off the plastic tray and put them on something nice before you serve your guests. Remember that a Kappa never smokes cigarettes while she's walking. Don't chew your ice because everybody knows that just means you're frustrated. Be good, or failing that, be careful. You may think you're 1,000 miles from home, but you can bet your life that when you commit one slight indiscretion, someone from these parts will be around to see, and folks around here talk. Don't forget to call home on Saturday afternoon when the call is free, and write your grandmother. I've seen your cousin Jenny eyeing her silver lately, bless her heart. Don't forget to stand up straight, to spit out your gum before you leave the house, to say your prayers every night before you turn in. And don't forget that tacky is as tacky does, and our side of the family ain't tacky.
The first poem from my book, Better with Friends. This poem is a long poem, and but I won't take up more than my time. And this one is called The Kidnapping of Amy, and it is written in memory of my mother-in-law, Amy Schultz-Lossy, April 24th, 1918 to February 27th, 2002, who asked me to write a book about her kidnapping. I did explain to her that I didn't have enough material to write a book, but I would write a poem. Purge me with hyssop and wash me. Psalm 51:7. We took Amy to the hospital in the wee hours of Thanksgiving, and I saw medical workers insert a tube through her nose. That was before the feast that should have been, no, was, but got delayed, as they drilled us for reasons in ER, for justification, for the many pills we brought along to keep her body in a fragile balance, gone unknowingly with a broken sternum from the accident in Shelby. We saw coffee ground vomit, knew only some of the answers, felt reprimanded by staff doctors for ignorance, for nocturnal confusion. Still, up for a day and a half, I know what dehydration is and tried to prevent its happening. At home, I washed soiled sheets, not for love, nor lack of it, but to put things right. I moved like a poet, laboring under the weight of the burden of truth. And once, when we came to visit and found her unclean, with a powerful stench wafting in the air, she waved us away with bony fingers, hiding her face in a cotton blanket. The nurse would clean her. We'd eat hospital chicken. But by accident, we left our money in the car and, discovering our oversight, left food near the register, fled into the cleansing rain, much needed and ever so welcome, like the promises found in the canon of God. Promises? Yes, but hers is a much longer story, and I deal here with possibility only. How sometimes the mind fails to know what the body fails to do, and sometimes it does know. Sometimes the mind fails to know what it does. The soul fails to know what the mind is doing. Like the time she said especially delicious meals, always, to my knowledge, and for many years eaten in the company of Paul, whom she misses, and her mouth in sorrow now just forgets to eat. So 5, or was it 6 and 3 at Monday's care plan meeting, where the Springwood staff and her next of kin address her waning effort, her long-held depression. We hear out their plan. Give it 2 weeks. Buy wine and a bird feeder. Notice the commode newly placed in her room. Hang an analog clock, or try to. And we who live in her dwindling shadow quarrel, while she nudges the contents of her lunch with the tines of her fork. She lies there, day after day, her eyes either foggy or shut. But knowing the past is never just the past. Knowing things she does not know, what I want is a miracle. Perhaps she wants the same. I want to scream like Jesus. No, to Jesus. Take up thy bed and walk. And watch her walk. Too tired? Well, we all are. I had even asked my friends when we left the Gailey's house following the 5th Saturday social of the local model railroad club, is it all right to pray for snow? And they all said, yes. With the new year, the snow came. So we rebuilt 4 computers in 4 acts of restoration that helped us with the claiming of our peace. She asked us to go away, visit her later, just as January settled in on that Saturday before it rained, cold and freezing rain, the sky as dark and lonely as a prayer thrown back from heaven. And then one night she said we'd kidnapped Amy, even prompting me to write it down. So I'll include known details. When she choked on breakfast sausage, she got oxygen. The pneumonia had settled in, clogging her lungs with invisible pus, and the ligament, exposed and visible in the sore on her left leg, was slow to heal. Fact is, it never did. She used her energy to resist therapy, or so it seemed. She felt caught in the middle, didn't know what to do, said it seemed we all wanted different things. And we did. We're different people. Then we said our goodbyes in a hospital room, cried and held each other's hands. A kind nurse drew the window shades. She told us to take our time.
Hood on the front that the publisher, her daughter actually drew that. It's kind of cute. And she picked that out because there's actually several poems in here. I didn't originally intend it that have little fairy tale things in them. So I thought I'd read one of those for you guys too. This is called Toward Happily Ever After. At 5, she wasn't able to read books to herself unless she was reading out loud. She'd sit on her parents' bed while everyone else was watching TV so they couldn't hear her. Her favorite book was the Disney Illustrated edition of Sleeping Beauty because it had a dragon. She was not scared of the dragon. She thought the spindle that waited for Sleeping Beauty was frightening, though. It reminded the girl of the needle her mother had used to pry a tick from the girl's scalp. The dragon was black, like the local sound water with its purple tone, a hue that she wished she had in her plain brown locks that were the same shade as her boring brown eyes. She was torn about what she would do if she had been in the story. Part of her thought it would have been best to run away, so she wouldn't have had to sleep for so long, waiting for a man to kiss her. But if she had run, instead of staying, she never would have had a chance to try to slay the dragon.
Call my stepfather Satan. And I do use that term in a loving way because he put a roof over my head. But, you know, he probably made me a very strong woman, actually, but he was extremely abusive. And when you live in that kind of strange, abusive Tennessee Williams play, there's consequences. And unfortunately, it was my brother and my mother. And my brother overdosed, and my father was terrible to him, and he was terrible to my mother, and she slowly killed herself drinking and pills. So she gave herself congestive heart failure at 52 and had a massive stroke and died 2 years ago. So when you lose the 2 dearest people to you who knew you as a child, they're your historians. And so I often started thinking, are my memories real? Did they happen? Was it true? Who was I then? As we all do. I'm nearly 40, and I ponder that constantly. I am definitely not the same kid I was in junior high school. I got on my own nerves back then. Definitely not who I was even 10 or even 5 years ago. And so this chapbook, Mill Hill, I knew I'd have to resurrect a lot of bones. And when you open those doors, you know, I got into a deep funk writing this. And it's taken me probably 10 years to complete this, just a chapbook. I've written other things, but you know, it was these poems I didn't want to write because I was scared. I was scared of my father. I was scared he was going to find out. But now that my mother's gone, I've excommunicated my stepfather from my life, and now I've been able to write and somewhat free myself from his bondage and his slavery chains. So I'm just going to share with you some of these poems. And, you know, I've written a poem recently about everything. He's a shadow. In every memory I have, any good memory, he's a shadow in it. So you'll probably hear his shadow throughout all of these poems, even if it's written for my mother or my brother or my sister. I'll start off with Homefront. My mother rips the glow from the lightning bug and paints our faces with her fluorescent fingers. We wait and watch with round eyes electrified for our marks. Cheeks puffed, breath bated, crickets' cantos ricochet off trees. Rough, yarn-worn fingers press my face, one stripe down each cheek, warm gut glow. All the Mill Hill houses, white and straight in a row, know that within their walls, wars are growing. But tonight, with him not home, we three little Indians escape a scalping and dance in the dusk, glowing.
This has been a Taylorsville Times presentation.